In February 2017, a devastating flood occurred along Coyote Creek in downtown San Jose when an atmospheric river of rain filled Anderson Reservoir and overwhelmed its spillway, leading to heavy flooding of Coyote Creek. As the creek overflowed, thousands of people were displaced with no advance warning. The flooding caused substantial damage to the survivors' families, their homes, and possessions, causing the loss of irreplaceable family treasures, lost wages, severe health setbacks, and extra costs for housing, food, and transportation. The victims of the flood were primarily young working families and the elderly. They were among the 14,000 San Jose residents belatedly evacuated and the 400 families who were displaced from their homes for weeks or months, and in some cases indefinitely. They lived in 3 distinct San Jose neighborhoods: Rock Springs, the Olander and William Street neighborhoods, and several mobile home parks. The catastrophic flooding was the result of the joint failure of 2 local government agencies: the Santa Clara Valley Water District, which is now called Valley Water, and the City of San Jose. Their inactions included the district's failure to properly manage and operate Anderson Dam and Spillway, their failure to maintain Coyote Creek, and the city's failure to maintain the storm drain system. Their collective failure to give residents adequate notice of the flooding that the agencies knew would be catastrophic also increased the suffering of the residents. Shockingly, in the middle of Silicon Valley, the high-tech hub of the world, the agencies failed to use the best available technology to notify residents of the imminent flood, and instead relied on outdated, ineffective, and belated means of notification that was both misdirected and untimely. As a result of this flood, many of the survivors have lost trust in and respect for their government. And as the impact of climate change gets more severe, it's ever more important to build resilience in our communities and to insist on accountability from our governments. They represent us, and they must do a better job of protecting us. The most effective way to assure government accountability is for residents to organize and mobilize to insist that their elected officials compensate the 2017 flood survivors for their losses, and to make sure that this never happens again. This website is a resource for the stories of the victims, the history of negligence by several government agencies over the course of decades, and more importantly, how you can get involved to help our efforts of compensating the victims of the 2017 flood. After viewing this short video, please click on the Take Action button to tell your elected officials how you feel. Whereas San Jose residents have suffered from other floods in the past, the 2017 flood was known as a probable maximum flood event. This refers to a flood that may be expected from the most severe conditions that are reasonably possible in a particular region. In effect, the responsible government agencies knew that Anderson Dam could not handle such a flood, and yet they did nothing to fix it before disaster struck. Since Anderson Dam was built in 1950, there have been 13 major floods along Coyote Creek, including the catastrophic flooding in February 2017. Each time that Anderson Dam has spilled or overflowed, significant flooding has occurred along and within the same sections of Coyote Creek that flooded in 2017. After each flood, the Water District is required to prepare a flood report. Its 1997 flood report provides a detailed account of meetings convened by the Water District and the City of San Jose to hear and respond to concerns of the flooded residents. It is shocking to see how little the agencies learned between 1997 and 2017 and how little they did to prepare. For instance, A. The Water District admitted to being aware of the inadequacies of Anderson Dam to withstand a probable maximum flood, but they did not tell the community. And over the next 20 years, they did nothing to fix it. B. In response to the concerns expressed by the residents, the agencies asserted, quote, "The City of San Jose staff recognizes that strategies and procedures for alerting citizens to potential emergencies need to be reviewed. The new emergency alert system will allow San Jose to make much better use of broadcast media to disseminate information." Yet again, the same failures were replayed 20 years later. C. When residents complained in 1997 about lack of notice, the response was, quote, "As a result of this flooding experience, we know which properties may flood for similar size event and earlier notification will be possible," unquote. Yet 20 years later, residents again got no effective warning. D. A main concern residents raised in 1997 was that, quote, "governments were not working together." Their response, quote, "The district will continue to work with those agencies to develop an appropriate notification system for property owners subject to flooding," unquote. But 20 years later, they again failed, with much worse consequences than in 1997. Here's the bottom line. The damages and injuries caused by the February 21, 2017 flooding were both preventable and predictable. If the government agencies had taken appropriate actions, the worst impacts of the flooding could have been avoided. Even a few hours advance warning would have substantially reduced losses and would have provided a chance to secure and protect real property and secure medications on which many relied to maintain their health. Many survivors and their neighbors have described their losses and suffering in claims filed with the government agencies. You can see some of these claims on the Stories tab of this website. After the flood, an independent analysis done for the city revealed severe inadequacies in San Jose's preparation and response, including repeating mistakes made in the Coyote Creek flood in January of 1997. While noting that the city, quote, accepted full responsibility for its failures and shortcomings, unquote, the report also noted that A. San Jose has historically not sufficiently invested in emergency preparedness. B. City employees were observing the impending flood and trying to communicate their concerns to top management, but the city's communication and decision-making structures were significantly inadequate. C. San Jose did not have adequate processes in place to effectively communicate accurate, reliable, and timely information to its residents. And D. San Jose did not have adequate and effective working relationships with the water district to manage their flood response, thus undermining their ability to make joint strategic decisions in a timely manner. We need to understand the 2017 flood as another symptom of climate change, which means that flooding will likely be more frequent and even more devastating in the future. For more than a decade, the state has provided local governments with specific climate change-related guidance and resources so they could mitigate the increased incidence of flooding caused by climate change. State and federal agencies have been warning about the need for enhanced flood warning systems. Despite all the scientific and technical evidence, the agencies still fail to take effective actions. The details of the impact of climate change can be found in the references section of this website. Please contact your local officials to let them know that you support the flood survivors by clicking on the red button on our landing page. And if you want to get involved in helping, please contact us through this website.